A skinny school security guard dropped to his knees before the city's richest billionaire's teenage son after his own son dared to fight back against years of brutal bullying. The entire school courtyard fell silent. Students pulled out their phones. Teachers looked away. Parents watched without saying a word. Victor Kingsley broke the silence.
If you truly regret what your son has done, kneel down before my son and beg him for forgiveness. And perhaps I'll allow your son to remain in this school.
Without saying another word, the security guard slowly lowered himself onto both knees before the teenage boy. "I'm sorry. My son should never have raised his hands against you. Please forgive him." Laughter erupted across the courtyard. Some mocked him. Others pitied him. Even his own son stared at him in disbelief. But what nobody, not the billionaire, not the teachers, not even his own son, realized was that the man kneeling before a spoiled teenager had spent 15 years hiding from a past so dangerous that governments across the world officially declared him dead. And before that day was over, his son would disappear without a trace. The city believed they had humiliated an ordinary school security guard. They had no idea. They had just awakened the one man the world had prayed would never return. Daniel Cross spent 15 years pretending to be invisible. He arrived before sunrise. He checked classroom locks. He escorted late students to class. He carried lost backpacks to the office. At Ridgeway Academy, nobody knew his birthday. Nobody knew where he came from, and nobody cared. To the students, he was just the skinny security guy. To the teachers, he was the quiet employee who never complained. To the billionaire parents who funded the school, he barely existed. And Daniel preferred it that way, because the moment people started asking questions, people started getting hurt. For years, he had survived by following 3 rules. Never lose your temper. Never attract attention. Never become the man he used to be. Then his son came home with a split lip. Daniel wanted to believe it was a one-time incident. It wasn't. The bruises kept appearing. The excuses became weaker. The silence became heavier. And the morning Noah finally fought back, Daniel broke the first rule. By the end of that day, he would lose his son. By the end of the week, he would discover that the billionaire he begged for mercy had secretly ordered Noah's death. And by the time the truth surfaced, the world would remember why Daniel Cross had been erased from history. 15 years earlier, Daniel Cross had another name, a name that no longer existed. Today, every official record claimed he had died overseas. That was exactly how he wanted it, because some people were safer as ghosts than as living men. There had been a time when Daniel lived in a world where lies were currencies, trust lasted only moments, and mistakes were measured in lives instead of seconds. He traveled to places that never appeared on maps. He met people who never used their real names. When governments denied an operation had ever happened, Daniel already knew why. Then came one assignment. Something went wrong. Not immediately, not loudly, quietly, like a single crack spreading beneath frozen ice. One by one, people Daniel had worked beside stopped answering their secure phones. Safe houses suddenly became death traps. Encrypted channels went silent. Someone wasn't simply hunting his team. Someone already knew where everyone would run before they ran. Daniel realized one terrifying truth. The enemy wasn't outside. It was already inside. He never discovered who betrayed them. He only knew that everyone connected to the mission began disappearing. Some were found dead. Most were never found at all. The only person who escaped with him was his wife, Elena. For 4 days they never stayed in the same place twice. One night, it was an abandoned motel. The next, an empty fishing cabin. Then a freight train. Then a borrowed apartment whose owner never knew they had been there. Neither of them slept. Neither of them believed the nightmare would end. On the 4th night, Elena was gone. The apartment door remained locked. The windows were untouched. Her wedding ring still rested on the bedside table. But Elena herself had vanished. No note. No blood. No struggle. No witnesses. Daniel searched until exhaustion replaced hope. Every lead disappeared before he reached it. Every person who claimed to know something suddenly changed their story. It was as if someone had reached into the world and erased her. Months later, Daniel stood alone in a cemetery where a gravestone carried a name that wasn't his anymore. According to every official document, Daniel Cross was dead. He didn't correct them. Dead men weren't hunted. Dead men could raise children. Dead men could disappear. When Noah was born, Daniel made himself one promise. His son would never inherit the life that had destroyed his own. He abandoned every remaining contact, destroyed every phone, burned every document, locked away everything that connected him to the man he used to be. Then he chose the most ordinary life he could imagine. A quiet apartment, a steady paycheck, a simple uniform. Eventually, he became a school security guard. The salary barely covered the bills. The night shifts left him exhausted. But every evening Noah waited for him with a smile that made every sacrifice worthwhile. Daniel learned to cook meals that usually came out slightly overdone. He attended every parent-teacher conference. He never missed Noah's birthdays. When Noah needed help building a science project, Daniel stayed awake until 2 in the morning pretending he understood instructions that made no sense. Whenever Noah laughed, the years before him seemed a little farther away. Some nights, after Noah had fallen asleep, Daniel stepped onto the apartment balcony carrying a small silver necklace. It had belonged to Elena. He would turn it slowly between his fingers while staring into the darkness. He still searched for answers. He simply stopped believing they would ever come. Noah inherited Elena's kindness. He also inherited Daniel's stubbornness. It was a dangerous combination, especially at Ridgeway Academy. The school looked perfect from the outside. Beautiful buildings, outstanding academic results, parents who donated more money than some neighborhoods earned in a year. But beneath that polished image, power decided right from wrong. And nobody held more power than Damian Kingsley. Damian was the son of billionaire businessman Victor Kingsley. Teachers excused him. Students followed him. Even adults thought twice before challenging him. At first, Damian treated Noah like everyone else. Then he noticed something. Noah refused to be intimidated. That was all the reason Damian needed. The jokes came first, then the insults. Books disappeared from Noah's locker. Homework was destroyed. Cruel rumors spread through classrooms before breakfast. Embarrassing videos appeared online, only to disappear before school administrators could investigate. Noah never complained. Not because he wasn't hurting, because he knew how hard his father worked just to keep food on the table. One evening, Daniel noticed dark bruises stretching across Noah's ribs while handing him a clean shirt. He froze. What happened? Noah forced a smile. Basketball practice. Daniel recognized a lie the moment he heard one. Years earlier, his job had depended on spotting lies. Now the person lying to him was his own son. He wanted to ask more questions. He wanted to march into the school the very next morning. Instead, he remembered the promise he had made to himself 15 years earlier. Never become that man again. So he placed a hand on Noah's shoulder. If anyone ever hurts you, you tell me. Noah nodded. I will, Dad. It was the last promise either of them would ever be able to keep. The first thing Daniel Cross noticed every morning was not the noise. It was the silence. At 5:15 a.m., before the first school bus arrived, before students filled the hallways with voices and footsteps, Ridgeway Academy belonged to him. The massive brick building stood empty beneath the pale morning sky. Daniel walked through the main entrance carrying a small maintenance bag in one hand and a coffee cup in the other. To anyone watching, he looked exactly like the man everyone at Ridgeway believed him to be. A thin, middle-aged security guard with slightly oversized glasses, a faded uniform, and a habit of apologizing whenever someone bumped into him. The kind of person people looked past. That was intentional. Daniel checked the front doors, then the emergency exits, then the security monitors. Not because his job required perfection, because 15 years of survival had taught him that the smallest details often revealed the biggest dangers. A camera pointed 3 degrees too far left. A door that didn't close properly. A person standing where they had no reason to stand. Most people saw a hallway. Daniel saw everything. He finished his rounds just as the first teacher arrived. Morning, Daniel. Daniel turned and smiled. Morning, Mrs. Parker. The teacher walked past him carrying a stack of papers. She never noticed that Daniel had already noticed the coffee stain on her sleeve, the exhaustion under her eyes, and the fact that she had been crying recently. He noticed everything. He simply never showed it. That was the difference between the man people saw and the man he had buried. By 7:30 a.m., Ridgeway Academy transformed. Luxury cars filled the parking lot. Students entered wearing expensive clothes and carrying designer backpacks. Parents said goodbye near the entrance. Teachers rushed between classrooms. The school looked perfect. But Daniel had learned long ago that perfect places often hid the ugliest secrets. Among the students entering that morning was Noah Cross. 16 years old. Smart. Quiet. Stubborn. He walked through the front gates with his backpack over one shoulder, trying harder than usual to look normal. Daniel noticed immediately. His son's steps were slower. His shoulders were tense. And he kept checking the same direction every few seconds. The east hallway, where Damian Kingsley usually waited. Daniel lowered his eyes and continued checking the security desk. He didn't approach Noah. He didn't ask questions in front of everyone. He knew his son. If Daniel pushed too hard, Noah would close himself off. So he waited. That was another thing Daniel had learned. Patience could reveal more than pressure. Hey. Noah stopped. Daniel handed him a lunch bag. You forgot this. Noah looked at it and smiled slightly. Thanks, Dad. You sure you're okay? The question came softly. Not like an interrogation. Like a father. Noah hesitated. For half a second, Daniel saw it. The truth trying to escape. Then Noah looked away. Yeah, just tired. Daniel studied his face. The slight movement of his jaw. The way his fingers tightened around the lunch bag. A lie. A small one. But still a lie. Remember what I told you. Noah looked back. If someone hurts you, tell me. Noah nodded. I know. Then he walked toward class. Daniel watched him disappear into the crowd. For a moment, he felt that familiar instinct. The same instinct that had kept him alive years ago. Something was wrong. But Daniel forced himself to look away. Because the old Daniel would have followed. The old Daniel would have investigated. The old Daniel would have found whoever was responsible and ended the problem permanently. But that man was gone. At least, that was what Daniel kept telling himself. Noah reached his locker before the first bell. He already knew what he would find. The broken lock was hanging open. Inside, his textbooks were missing. His science project was torn apart. And written across his locker door in black marker were 4 words. Still no mother? Noah stared at the message. For a moment, he couldn't move. Not because he was afraid of Damian. Because the words were carefully chosen. Damian knew exactly where to hurt him. The bullying had changed. At first, it was about popularity. Then embarrassment. Now it was personal. Looking for something? Noah closed the locker slowly. Damian Kingsley stood behind him with 2 friends. Perfect hair. Expensive jacket. The confidence of someone who had never been told no. Noah said nothing. Damian smiled. I asked you a question. Leave me alone, Damian. The 2 boys beside Damian laughed. Not because the comment was funny. Because they knew Damian expected them to. Damian stepped closer. You know what I don't understand about you? Noah looked at him. You keep pretending you're different. I never said that. No. Damian smiled. You just act like it. Students began walking past. Some noticed. Most ignored it. At Ridgeway Academy, everyone knew the rules. Damian Kingsley could do whatever he wanted. Noah picked up the pieces of his project and placed them into his bag. Then Damian said something that made him stop. Maybe you should stop pretending your father can save you. Noah slowly turned. Damian leaned against the locker. Because honestly, his smile faded into something colder. Your father is just the guy who checks bathrooms and opens doors. The hallway noise continued around them. But Noah heard nothing else. Because those words reminded him of every sacrifice Daniel had made. Every night shift. Every cheap meal. Every time his father came home exhausted but still asked how his day was. Damian didn't know Daniel. He didn't know what kind of man stood behind that uniform. But Noah did. And that was why the next words hurt more than anything Damian had said before. Damian looked at him and whispered, maybe that's why your mother left. Noah's hand tightened around the broken project pieces. For the first time, he didn't walk away. Noah stood in the middle of the hallway with the broken pieces of his project pressed against his chest. For years, he had learned how to ignore Damian Kingsley. He ignored the insults. He ignored the whispers. He ignored the videos that appeared online and disappeared before anyone could prove who uploaded them. Because every time he thought about telling Daniel, he remembered the same image. His father coming home late at night. The tired expression behind his smile. The worn-out uniform hanging beside the apartment door. Daniel had already given him everything he had. Noah couldn't bring himself to add another burden. But Damian had crossed a line. He had turned the one thing Noah never talked about into a weapon. My mother died. The words came quietly. Damian raised an eyebrow. For a moment, even he seemed surprised that Noah answered. Then the smile returned. Exactly. One of Damian's friends laughed. Man, that's cold. Damian shrugged. Everyone knows it. Noah stared at him. What do you know about her? Damien stepped closer. Enough to know she left you with him. That sentence hit harder than Noah expected, because it wasn't true, but it touched the fear he never admitted. What if people looked at Daniel and only saw what everyone else saw? A security guard, a nobody, a man who had spent his life making sure other people felt safe, while nobody noticed how much he carried. Noah. A voice interrupted them. A teacher stood at the end of the hallway. Mr. Harris, one of Ridgeway's senior teachers. His eyes moved from the broken project to Damien. What happened here? Immediately, Damien changed. The arrogance disappeared. The expression became innocent. Nothing, sir. Noah almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because he had seen this performance too many times. Nothing. Mr. Harris looked at the destroyed project. Damien shrugged. Noah dropped it. The teacher looked at Noah. A question. A chance. Noah opened his mouth, then stopped, because he already knew what would happen. Damien would deny it. His friends would support him. The school would investigate. Nothing would change. So Noah lowered his eyes. It's fine. Mr. Harris frowned. Are you sure? Noah nodded. Yeah. The teacher walked away, and Damien smiled. See? He whispered. Nobody cares. Noah picked up the last piece of his project. Then he walked away. But this time, Damien noticed something different. Noah wasn't scared. He was angry. Across the school, Daniel sat at the security desk. A student approached him holding a lost wallet. Found this near the gym. Daniel accepted it. Thank you. The student walked away. Daniel opened the security system. His eyes moved across the cameras. Normal. Students moving between classes. Teachers entering rooms. Nothing unusual. Then he saw Noah. The camera angle showed him walking alone through the science corridor. Daniel watched his son for 3 seconds. That was enough. Noah was moving differently. Daniel leaned closer to the monitor. The old instincts he had buried began to surface. Not fear. Recognition. A person carrying pain moved differently from someone carrying anger. Noah had both. Daniel reached for the radio, then stopped. His hand hovered over the button. He looked around the empty security office. For a brief moment, he wasn't the school guard. He was the man who had tracked people across borders. The man who could find someone who didn't want to be found. The man who had spent years learning exactly how dangerous silence could become. Then he pulled his hand back. No, not this way. He promised himself. He would not let his past control his son's future. That afternoon, Daniel waited outside the school entrance. Students left in groups. Parents arrived in expensive cars. Laughter filled the parking lot. Then Noah appeared. Daniel immediately noticed the damaged backpack strap, the missing textbooks, the expression Noah tried to hide. Long day. Noah forced a smile. Not really. Daniel looked at him. He didn't say anything. Sometimes silence revealed more than questions. They walked toward the bus stop together. After a few seconds, Daniel spoke. When I was your age, I thought being strong meant handling everything alone. Noah glanced at him. What happened? Daniel looked ahead. I learned I was wrong. Noah waited. Daniel continued. Strength isn't pretending nothing hurts. A pause. It's knowing when to let someone stand beside you. Noah looked away. For a moment, Daniel thought his son might finally tell him. Then Noah shook his head. I'm fine, Dad. Daniel nodded, but he didn't believe him. That evening, Noah sat at his desk staring at an old photograph. It was the only picture he kept hidden. Daniel, Elena, and a younger Noah. His mother was smiling. The kind of smile that made the whole room feel warmer. Noah traced the edge of the photograph. He barely remembered her voice anymore. Only small things remained. The smell of her perfume. The way she sang while cooking. The silver necklace she always wore. The one Daniel kept locked away. The one he refused to explain. Noah missed her. But more than that, he missed the version of his father that existed before she disappeared. The father who laughed more. The father who didn't always look like he was waiting for something terrible to happen. The next morning, the bullying became worse. Not because Damien was angry. Because he had discovered something. Noah's weakness wasn't fear. It was love. And Damien knew exactly where to attack. During lunch, Damien walked past Noah's table and dropped a folded piece of paper. Noah opened it. Inside was a printed photo. His mother. Taken years ago. Noah's face changed. For the first time, Damien saw real emotion. What do you want? Noah asked. Damien smiled. Nothing. He leaned closer. I just wanted to remind you. Some people leave because they don't want to stay. Noah stood. The cafeteria watched. Damien stepped back. Careful. He whispered. Your father might not be around forever either. Noah's hands tightened. Every lesson Daniel had taught him disappeared beneath the anger building inside him. He walked away before he did something he couldn't undo. But Damien wasn't finished, and neither was the day, because before the final bell rang, Damien Kingsley would make the one mistake that would awaken the part of Daniel Cross he had spent 15 years trying to bury. The final bell rang across Ridgeway Academy. Students poured out of classrooms, filling the hallways with conversations, laughter, and the sound of lockers closing. To everyone else, it was the end of another school day. To Noah Cross, it felt like he had been carrying a weight that had become impossible to hold. He walked toward the exit with his backpack hanging loosely from one shoulder. The photograph Damien showed him was still inside his pocket. He hadn't thrown it away. He didn't know why. Maybe because even though it hurt, it was still the last piece of his mother that belonged to him. Maybe because some part of him hoped that if he looked at it long enough, he would find an answer. Why did Elena disappear? Why did his father refuse to talk about it? Why did Daniel spend 15 years acting like a man hiding from his own shadow? Leaving already? Noah stopped. He didn't need to turn around. He already knew the voice. Damien. 3 students stood behind him. Damien Kingsley looked relaxed, almost bored. Like this was just another game. You really should learn something, Noah. Noah turned. What? Damien smiled. People like us don't get treated the same. The hallway slowly emptied. A few students stayed behind, pretending not to watch. You have one thing. Damien pointed at him. Pride. He laughed quietly. But pride doesn't make you important. Noah stared at him. What do you want? Damien stepped closer. I want you to understand your place. My place? Yeah. Damien looked at Noah's uniform jacket. People like your father spend their entire lives protecting people like mine. Noah's expression hardened. Don't talk about him. That made Damien smile. There it was. The reaction he wanted. The proof that Daniel was the one thing Noah couldn't ignore. Why? Damien asked. Because the truth hurts. Noah said nothing. Damien continued. Your father is pretending to be something he's not. The words caught Noah's attention. What does that mean? For a second, Damien looked like he knew more than he should. Then the expression disappeared. Nothing. He walked around Noah. Just something I heard. Noah watched him leave. Something about those words bothered him. Not because he believed Damien. Because Damien sounded confident. Like he had information. That evening, Daniel waited outside the apartment building. He had noticed something unusual when Noah came home. The teenager didn't complain. Didn't argue. Didn't slam doors. That worried Daniel more than anger would have. Anger meant Noah was fighting. Silence meant Noah was giving up. Noah entered the apartment. Daniel looked up from the kitchen. Dinner is almost ready. Noah nodded. Okay. Daniel watched him walk toward his room. Noah. He stopped. Yeah. Daniel wanted to ask everything. About the bruises. The broken project. The photograph. Damien. Instead, he asked the simplest question. How was school? Noah looked at him. 100 answers crossed his mind. Only one came out. Fine. Daniel lowered his eyes. He understood. His son had learned the same dangerous habit he had. Keeping pain hidden. Later that night, Daniel found the damaged science project inside Noah's backpack. He didn't search for it. It fell out when Noah left his bag near the kitchen table. Daniel picked up the broken pieces. The damage wasn't accidental. The cuts were deliberate. Someone had taken time. Someone wanted Noah to know they could reach him whenever they wanted. Daniel stood completely still. Not frozen. Not shocked. Calculating. His eyes moved across the torn project. The missing pieces. The location of the damage. The way it had been destroyed. A pattern. He recognized patterns. It was a skill he hated that he still possessed. For 15 years, Daniel had avoided using those instincts. But now they were returning. Not because he wanted them. Because his son needed him. Daniel placed the project back on the table. Then he walked toward Noah's room. He raised his hand to knock. Stopped. Then lowered it. No. He needed Noah to come to him. If he forced the truth out, Noah would only hide deeper. Daniel returned to the kitchen. But he didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Noah arrived at school earlier than usual. He wanted to avoid Damien. He wanted one normal day. Just one. But Damien had already planned something different. When Noah reached his locker, he found it covered with printed photographs. Not random pictures. Pictures of Daniel. Daniel opening the school gates. Daniel carrying boxes. Daniel eating lunch alone in the security office. Someone had taken pictures of him. The message was clear. They weren't just targeting Noah anymore. They were targeting his father. Noah removed the pictures quickly. His hands shook. Didn't think you'd like those. Noah turned. Damien stood nearby. You took those? Damien shrugged. Maybe. Why? Damien walked closer. Because I wanted you to understand something. He pointed at the photographs. Your father has spent his whole life hiding behind that uniform. Noah stepped forward. Stop. Damien smiled. Or what? That question hung between them. Because Noah didn't know the answer. He had always walked away. Always swallowed the anger. Always remembered Daniel's advice. But Damien kept pushing. You know what the funny thing is? Damien lowered his voice. Your father looks like he couldn't hurt a fly. Noah stared at him. But I wonder. Damien leaned closer. If that's actually true. For the first time, Noah noticed something strange. Damien wasn't just bullying him. He was testing him. Testing his reaction. Testing Daniel. And somewhere deep inside, Noah felt something he couldn't explain. Fear. Not of Damien. Of what might happen if his father finally stopped holding back. Across the school, Daniel checked the security monitors. Then he saw something. A group of students gathered around Noah's locker. Daniel switched cameras. The image appeared, and for the first time in 15 years, Daniel saw something that made him forget the promise he made to himself. Someone had brought his past close to his son. Daniel stood slowly. The security guard disappeared for a moment, and the man underneath looked out. The man who had survived when everyone else didn't. The man who had erased his own existence. Daniel reached for his radio, then stopped, because before he could decide what to do, Noah did something Daniel never expected. Something that would change everything. He turned around and walked straight toward Damien Kingsley. Every student instinctively stepped aside. No one spoke. No one moved. Daniel's eyes never left the monitor. In 15 years, he had learned one lesson the hard way. Some moments cannot be undone. And whatever was about to happen between those two boys would change both of their lives forever. The next 10 seconds would awaken a past Daniel had buried for 15 years. And once that past returned, there would be no stopping what came next. If you think this story ends with a school fight, you're wrong. Episode 2 reveals what happened when Noah finally stood face to face with Damien, and why that single decision forced Daniel Cross to become the man the world believed had died 15 years earlier. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments, what do you think Noah is about to do?